What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got some ridiculously exciting news about the Transformers trading card game. That long-rumoured Megatron vs. Bumblebee deck is real, and it is coming, and it has a release date of the 3rd of May of this year. Now, as a quick reminder, the Devastator deck is coming out at the end of the month, March the 29th. So that's quite nice. Give us just over a month until this comes out. And this was revealed by the lovely folks over at WTF, so do make sure you check them out. I will pop a link in the description. Even if you only want to listen to the TCG podcasts, the TCG podcasts are awesome and very often have Drew Nolosco and John Shawk and all of that, so do make sure you're checking those guys out. They do good work. Although if you're into Transformers generally, listen to every week. But certainly I've devoured all their TCG stuff, and it's awesome. And they have a new Windblade to show us, and some of you might remember this because the Wave 2 reveal included this artwork. Is it a little bit strange that the one character that was teased in the reveal did not actually make it into Wave 2? Yeah, but this happens. So what do we know? Well, we know that it's coming out on May the 3rd, and we know that it is going to be very much like the previous starter set, and, well, we can assume anyway, and we know that it is going to feature 4 new characters. How do we know that? Because Windblade is number 4 out of 4. Now, given that it's literally called Bumblebee versus Megatron, clearly we're getting a Bumblebee. Clearly we're getting a Megatron. So yeah, we don't know who the 4th one is. Bumblebee, Megatron, Windblade, and we know it's going to be a Decepticon, because there's going to be 2 Autobots, 2 Decepticons. That makes perfect sense. Otherwise, it's kind of 3 against 1, and that seems a bit harsh. We also know that all 4 of the characters are going to add up to exactly 25 stars, because unless something really weird happens, and I refuse to believe it will, just like the first starter deck, it is going to be designed to be played as a complete deck out the box. So that means 4 characters, 25 stars, 40 battle cards. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. And that's what we know. But the good news is we have a complete look at Windblade, so let's have a gander, shall we? Now, she is a 5-cost character, which is extremely low. The thing you need to remember here is they're trying to shoehorn 4 characters into a 25-star deck so that you've got a variety of characters and, of course, so that it can be played as a complete deck or split up and played with 2 people, just like the first starter deck could essentially be split in half and played against each other as 2 mini decks. So for that reason, yeah, we're going to have low star characters here because we need to make a 4-wide deck. So we're not expecting amazing stats here, and we don't get amazing stats. Health of 8 is actually quite nice. It's certainly not terrible, although it does fit with a bunch of other 5-star characters, like my boy Alpha Bravo, who is another 5-cost character, came out in Wave 2, who also happens to have 8 health. And in terms of the other stats, an attack of 2 is frankly low. Gonna be honest with you here. And defense of either 1 or 2 is either average or just below. So if we put this side by side against Alpha Bravo, purely because it's another 5-cost with similar stats, Windblade's looking alright. Extremely similar stats, the only difference being you get 1 extra defense in alt mode. But then again, you've got different designations here. Now, you are a range character in either mode, and you are a plane. Some people have already pointed out that a character famous for wielding swords as a range character seems a little bit weird. I'm going to leave that to you lovely ladies and gentlemen to have an argument about. What I know is that we've got some nice support for planes, and also, this is a nice low-cost plane. So if we're having a little bit of a look at the kind of supports we have here, don't forget Bombing Run. I adore Bombing Run. Bombing Run is a lovely card that lets you take 1 damage counter from each of your planes and move it to one of your opponent's characters. It's a very nice thing for planes. And in Wave 2, we're actually getting Crash Landing. Now, Crash Landing can only be put on planes, but when you are KO'd, you do damage equal to your attack to a tapped enemy. Now, admittedly, Windblade here only has 2 attack. It's not ideal. Could be worse. Could be an awful lot better. I mean, yeah, with a Crash Landing, you can bump it up with stuff like Grenade Launcher, but let's just say it's far from ideal. And then being a ranged character means that you do have Armed Hovercraft. Does 1 damage to all of your opponent's characters when you attach it. That's pretty nice. You have a Rapid Ascent that lets your opponent, or indeed forces your opponent, to discard a card from their hand. That's a little bit mean. We have Marksman, that we had a little bit of a look at just the other day, or Marksmanship as it's actually called, which is a really fun little card that lets you do 2 damage to a character in bot mode, just so long as you've got a ranged character on the field. And then, of course, we've got Cooling Vents, which repairs 1 damage when you attach it. And all of this can be used because you're a ranged character / plane. But before we look at anything else, we really do need to look at the skill of Windblade, although to be fair, has been on the screen for a little while. When you flip into bot mode, you get PS2 until end of turn. And the thing is, I don't know how much I love this. Because if we go back to Alpha Bravo has PS3. And not when you flip to bot mode, it just has PS3. And that makes me a little bit sad. Because they've got very, very comparable stats. They're the same cost. But all of a sudden, Alpha Bravo's got 1 extra Pierce and always has Pierce. It's none of this, when you flip to this mode malarkey, you just get Pierce. And when they're in bot mode, they've got the exact same stats. So I'm not such a fan of this. It is thematically convenient, given that we do have the other Windblade, the secret rare from the set, which does, when it is attacking a combiner in bot mode, have PS4. But I think most of the time I'd rather have Alpha Bravo. Now, Alpha Bravo is a specialist, but to be honest, I adore Field Communicator. Partly, I'm a little bit biased against one of the cards from Wave 2 that I was lucky enough to reveal. But also, it lets you basically play an extra card. Scrap the top card of your deck when you attach it, and then you can play it. I think that's a phenomenal card, and it's certainly one I would be looking to play in a specialist deck. And although the other Windblade is a specialist, this one is not. So really, I think this comes down to how much do you want a ranged character or a plane? Because if you're playing a deck which is relying on stuff like Armed Hovercraft, Crash Landing, all of that, then yeah, Windblade is fine. Windblade is good. Because at the end of the day, Alpha Bravo is a helicopter which has absolutely no support, a specialist, the best thing about which is Field Communicator, and an aerial bot. And just earlier today or yesterday, depending on the upload order, we looked at aerial bot formation, which gives you +1 attack for each of your other tapped aerial bots. So I like Windblade, and I love that we're getting another Windblade. And to be fair, I do enjoy the fact that both Windblades can be played together. The super rare is a 12 cost, this is a 5 cost. That puts you up to 17 stars and still gives you 8 more to play with. So you can play double Windblade with a bunch of other stuff if you want to go full Windblade. The thing is, I just think it's a weaker version of Alpha Bravo. If you really want a ranged character or a plane, that's completely different. But otherwise, you're gaining 1 extra defense in ult mode while having an objectively significantly worse skill. Because there is no skill here in ult mode. It's vanilla in ult mode. And Alpha Bravo does damage when an enemy plane attacks, which ironically would include Windblade in ult mode. So, yeah, not the biggest fan of this yet, but I am a huge fan of the fact that we're getting this deck. It was rumoured, and then it was rumoured to be cancelled, and some places still have it up for pre-order, and no one really knew what was going on. But it's coming at the beginning of May, and we're getting 4 new character cards, 3 of which still need to be revealed, and we're getting another starter deck. And I don't know about you, but I, for one, am very excited about getting both the starter decks and immediately playing them against each other. And incidentally, this will make Bumblebee the leader for most number of cards, because there were 2 Bumblebees in Wave 1, plus the Bumblebee in the starter set. Then we got a Bumblebee in Wave 2. This is going to be our 5th Bumblebee. Now, as a man who loves Bumblebee, I am down with this. But Bumblebee is getting an awful lot of love over at Wizards of the Coast. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the news as you need to know it in terms of the new deck coming out and the new Windblade. Huge thank you to the lovely folks over at TFW for doing this reveal and sharing the Transformers love, to be honest. Do make sure you're checking out the podcast, YouTube channel, etc. Links in the description. Let's give them some love, ladies and gentlemen. And then, of course, tell me what you think about this. How excited for this deck are you? Do you intend getting it? And who are you secretly hoping, or indeed not so secretly hoping, that 4th character will be? We know we're getting Bumblebee, we know we're getting Megatron, unless someone really messed up naming that deck. We've seen Windblade, so logically that means we've got 1 Decepticon left to be revealed. Let me know who you want it to be. Go nuts in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games and have a lot of fun. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.